Hello everyone. For this video, I'll discuss about international trade between Thailand and Philippines. For the outline of this topic, first we'll be talking about basics about international trade. Then we'll discuss on Philippine trade statistics. And the last would be some important trading regulations between Philippines and Thailand, just in case you would like to do exports to the Philippines. So to give you the location of these two countries, Thailand and Philippines are both Asian countries, particularly located on the southeast part. So some basics about international trade. So international trade is the exchange of goods and services between countries. There are two types of international trade. We have visible trade, which refers to buying and selling of solid and tangible things between countries, while invisible trade refers to services. And international trade consists of goods and services moving into two directions. And these are what we call the exports and imports. Exports are those goods that are flowing out of a country and sold overseas, while imports are those goods that are flowing into a country from abroad. Now, why international trade exists? So, trading between countries exists when there is not enough resources to satisfy domestic needs and wants, or vice versa. So, these countries source out supply through imports. On the other hand, by developing and exploiting their domestic resources, some countries can produce surplus, which they sell as exports. Another thing that we need to know is that what are the benefits of international trade? So among them, we have jobs and boosting of economic development. So jobs in such a way that great trading nations, like let's say for example Japan, Germany, UK, and USA, including South Korea, have one thing in common, and they have much lower levels of unemployment because of international trade. And also, the other one is comparative advantage, because trading encourages a nation to specialize in producing or supplying only those goods and services which it can deliver more effectively and at the best price, after taking into consideration the opportunity cost. The other one is economies of scale, because if a country sells goods globally, then that country have to produce more than what is being sold domestically, right? So producing in higher volumes provides greater economies of scale. In other words, the cost of producing each item is lower. The other advantage is competition, wherein international trade boosts competition, which in turn is good for prices and quality. So if suppliers have to compete more, they will work harder to sell at the lowest price and at the best quality possible. As a result, to the consumers, they benefit by having more choice, more money left, and top quality goods. The other one is transfer of technology. This is beneficial, particularly if the second user is a developing nation. However, international trade has also some disadvantages, and this includes over specialization, and it is also a disadvantage to new companies and national security. Why? Because in terms of over specialization, employees might lose jobs in large numbers if global demand for a product declines. While for new companies, it would be hard for them to grow if they have to compete against giant firms. And in terms of national security, it is very risky for those countries who are highly dependent or totally dependent on imports from other countries in terms of strategic industries. These strategic industries include food, energy, and military equipment. Now, why do countries import? So there are some perceptions that countries consider. The first one is that because of price. So countries basically perceive cheap price from products abroad, and that these countries also produce quickly, so they choose to import rather than produce it locally. The other one is that superior quality of products abroad are being perceived by these countries. That is why they import. And the last one is when the demand is greater than the local supply, that particular country cannot produce locally, then they left with the choice to import from other countries. Now, what regulates import and export? There are actually quotas and mandates from each country's customs authority. In the case of the Philippines, we have this what we call the BOC, or the Bureau of Customs, which regulates the import and the export of products, wherein tariffs may be imposed. Tariffs are taxes imposed on imported goods and services from abroad. And however, there are also special deals on freely traded goods. And most particularly in the ASEAN region, there is FTA, or Free Trade Agreement, wherein this free trade agreement enables the free flow of goods and services among ASEAN countries. And Thailand has free trade agreement with Philippines, as they are both ASEAN countries. So FTA, or treaty, is a multinational agreement according to international law to form a free trade area between the cooperating states. So its goal is to increase the competitive advantage of ASEAN region as a production base in the world market through the elimination of tariffs and non-tariff barriers. And we will be talking more of that in a bit. Now let's proceed to some important Philippine trade statistics. So just to give you what are those top Philippine imports, as what you can see in that figure, electrical machinery and equipment tops among the Philippine imports with value of approximately 25% of the total imports. Other imports, we have mineral fuels, including oil, machinery, including computers, vehicles, plastics, aircraft or spacecraft, cereals, articles of iron or steel, optical, technical, and medical apparatus. So these products are being imported to the Philippines. And during the year 2018, the total imports amounted to 115.1 billion US dollars, wherein 79% of these total imports come from fellow ASEAN countries, while the others come from Europe, North America, and Oceania. Among these import commodities, cereals is the second fastest growing, which relative to the previous year, it increased to about 50%, and that is next to aircrafts, which also increased by 65%. And for cereals, the top cereals are wheat, rice, and corn. How about the top Philippine trading partners? As what you can see in this figure, United States and Hong Kong are the top trading partners of the Philippines, with values of imports amounted to more than 10 billion US dollars for United States and approximately 9 billion US dollars for Hong Kong. Other trading countries have Japan, China, Singapore, Germany, Thailand, South Korea, Netherlands, and Taiwan. This is based on the 2018 data. So the fastest growing partners cannot be seen in this figure, which were France, Indonesia, and Malaysia. And during the year 2018, actually, Philippines has a trade deficit amounted to 47.6 billion US dollars, meaning its total imports exceeds the total exports. And this particular amount is actually 43.6% increased relative to the earlier year. Narrowing down our statistics to agricultural products, let's look at some of the top imports and exports. So these are the top 5 Philippine agricultural imports. We have rice, corn, fresh onion, roasted coffee, and fresh garlic. Rice is the top among these commodities, with volume amounted to 100,000 metric tons, or this is equivalent to 20 million metric tons. Other agricultural imports, we have cocoa beans, leaf tobacco, mongo beans, and fresh potato. How about agricultural exports? So these are the commodities that Philippines export to other countries, and topping the list is banana, which has a total volume of 3,100,000 metric tons, or this is equivalent to 31 million metric tons during the year 2018. And joining the top 5 list, we have fresh pineapple, centrifugal sugar, fresh mango, and leaf tobacco. While other agricultural exports, we have fresh papaya, cocoa beans, fresh cassava, and fresh onion. So the total value of imports during 2018 amounted to 14.6 billion US dollars, while for the total value of exports, that amounted to 6.3 billion US dollars. So some trade statistics between Philippines and Thailand. Overall, Philippines is a net importer with respect to Thailand. And these are the top Philippine imports from Thailand. We have vehicles other than railway and tramway. Then also machineries, nuclear reactors, and boilers are being imported from Thailand. And also electronic equipment. While in terms of exports to Thailand, they share in common. We're in topping the list are electrical, electronic equipment. And also, Philippine exports machinery, nuclear reactors and boilers, and mineral fuels, oils, distillation products as well. In terms of agricultural products, Philippines is a net importer with a total value of imports amounted to 13.5 billion US dollars and exports of 7.2 billion US dollars. So top imports from Thailand, we have rice, which constitute to about 50.6% of the market share. And we also have food preparations, which is approximately 10%. This includes processed agricultural products. And also, Thailand imports animal and vegetable fats and oils to the Philippines, which is 3% of the market share. While in terms of Philippine exports to Thailand, cigarette is the only agricultural commodity that Philippine exports to Thailand with a considerable percentage of around 40% of the market share. Let's look at also the top Philippine rice suppliers. So these are the countries that supplies rice to the Philippines. So aside from Thailand, Vietnam also supplies rice to the Philippines. And joining the list of countries, we have India, China, Pakistan, Myanmar, Cambodia, Spain, and Italy. So as what you can see, Thailand and Vietnam are the top suppliers of rice to the Philippines. And among this list of countries, Pakistan is the fastest growing supplier. So those are just some of the important trading statistics of Philippines and Thailand. Now, let's say for example you want to do some imports to the Philippines. There are some trading regulations that we need to know. So now let's proceed to some of the important trading regulations between Thailand and Philippines. So as what you have learned, Thailand and Philippines belong to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And this association have this free trade area as part of the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement or the AFTA. So what is this ASEAN Free Trade Area? This is a trade bloc agreement by the ASEAN nations supporting local trade and manufacturing. It facilitates economic integration with regional and international allies. So with this one, it lowers business costs, increasing the trading, and a larger market and economies of scale for business is therefore being attained. So these are the member countries of the ASEAN. We have Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Laos, Vietnam, Philippines, and Brunei. So the goal of this association free trade area is to have free flow of goods and to have deeper economic linkage because there is elimination of tariff and non-tariff barriers among ASEAN members. Another is that quantitative restrictions are being lifted. So therefore, there are now less trade barriers, and that is through the Common Effective Preferential Tariff Scheme or the CEPT scheme, wherein this scheme indicates products with 0 to 5% tariff range. But of course, the rules of origin must apply, meaning that your product must be wholly produced or partly produced in that country. So Philippines and Thailand have eliminated intra-ASEAN import duties except in rice. And I'll discuss that in a bit. Let us say, for example, you want to import a particular commodity to the Philippines. These are the requirements for imports to the Philippines. You have to secure the following. We have invoice, packing list, bill of lading, and import permit. For invoice, this invoice shows the value of imports and it is actually the basis for the Bureau of Customs to charge tax to that particular imported goods. And it shows the proof of payment for that particular commodity. The next requirement is the packing list, where it shows the number of items, the quality, and the description of items. So in packing list, it shows how items are being packed and it should be consistent with the actual product quality. On the bill of lading, it shows the actual contact of transport between the shipping line or the airline and your business. This is also called the airway bill. The last one is the import permit, which can be secured from the Bureau of Customs or the BOC, and it is required to all products that are under the Regulated Import List or the RIL. Securing an import permit actually has a lot of another sub requirements. So I have posted the link on the description below for you to know the specific requirements on securing import permits. So you have learned that rice is the top commodity that Thailand exports to the Philippines. So let's say, for example, you want to import rice to the Philippines. What are some of the regulations? There are three things that you need to know. according to the National Food Authority, first you need to secure the import permits. Then you have to know that there is a Republic Act 11203 and the tariff arrangements. So for import permits, rice importers should have import permits wherein the BOC accepts and process this under the existing rice importation program by the NFA or the National Food Authority of the Philippines. Now, I have mentioned a while ago that the tariff barriers are being eliminated, but except for rice. And that is because of the Republic Act 11203 or the rice tariffication law, wherein it liberalized the importation and trading of rice. Yes, it lifted the quantitative import restrictions, but in terms of tariff, there is 35% tariff on imported rice and 40% for non-ASEAN countries. Now, what does the government do to these tariffs? So tariffs are used to support the rice program of the government in terms of purchase of high quality seeds and purchase of machinery and equipments which are being given to farmers. Now, actually, there are a lot of trading regulations, and trading regulations are country specific and product specific. Now, I cannot discuss all of the regulations at each commodity. So that's why I included in this presentation some of the basics on making export plan. So first, you need to determine your potential markets. So here you need to know the demand for that product. Is that particular product has high demand in this particular country? And look at the competitive environment as well. You might as well consider countries with free trade agreement. The next one is identify potential customers. So here you have to know what are the type of sellers that you are targeting of. Is it the wholesalers, retailers? Are you selling to government agency, direct to consumers, or a combination of this one? And you have to know the distribution and pricing, wherein you need to specify the distribution channels of your product. In terms of pricing, you have to know the duties and taxes, shipping cost, marketing cost, because this has actually impact to profit margin. And also the one thing that you need to consider is in production and finance, you have to consider your capability. If the demand for this particular product increases in this country, how are you going to finance your exports in terms of inventory and marketing cost? These are the things that you need to consider as well. The last one is to list down your resources that you are needing. So here you have to consider the logistics arrangement, which refers to both destination and home country in order to connect players. And also, what are the documentary requirements in shipping these goods? You need some export license. Do you need to comply with standards, certifications, or some regulations? And it actually vary in countries and are product specific. Okay, so to recap, so we have learned that international trade is the exchange of goods and services between countries, and it is of two types. We have visible trade and international trade, where invisible trade is the trading of goods and services that are tangible, while invisible trade consists of services. And also you have learned that the flow of goods is either going into a country or out of the country, and that is through imports and exports. And you also have learned that Philippines is a net importer, with US and Hong Kong being the top trading partners. And also with respect to Philippines and Thailand, rice is the top commodity that Thailand exports to the Philippines. And you have also learned about some of the requirements if you are to import to the Philippines, from import permit to product specific documentations. And I have given you some basics of how to prepare an export plan, because that actually depends to that country you are targeting of and are commodity specific. So that would be all, and I hope that you have learned. Thank you so much. I may have talked too fast. Well, you can always replay this video, and if you have some questions, you can just write it in the comment section below. Thank you so much.